Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. This is the Maverick Podcast. I am your host, DJMaverick. Today, we have a very special guest for you guys. We have a traveler, storyteller. Welcome, Jenni Reavis, to the podcast.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's great. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
I'm very excited. I guess probably instead of me trying to introduce you, for the 1% of the people out there that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
That was a whole, maybe 1% of the world, 0.0001 knows who I am. But, well, I mean, I guess I would ask you what intrigued you. What did you hear about my story that made you want to ask me?
Yeah, so I guess we should talk about that. So you did a Spanish podcast here with my friend Omar, and that was intriguing in itself, right? I was like, what? She's like fluent in Spanish. And, you know, he said that you were backpacking through the world and you had like all these obstacles that you had to overcome, right? So, I mean, I think you have a lot to share, and it sounds like you're a great storyteller because you also have a book.
I do.
So, I mean, all that put together, I was like, we got to have her on the pod.
Okay, well, it's an honor to be here. It's so much, I'm not really ever sure where to start exactly.
Yeah, okay. I guess maybe we should start where you grew up and kind of like, you know, how you became, you know, interested in Spanish, because we were talking a little bit off camera of how, you know, you met people along the way, you got, you know, interested in the culture, the food, the music, everything. So maybe tell us about that.
That came into my life when I was a little girl. My grandma, she was the person I was closest with in my family.
Okay.
And she was the owner of a travel agency.
Oh, cool.
And so I was exposed. I would stay with her during the summer, and she would come back from trips and bring earrings and artwork and stuff.
Oh, cool. Like arsenal, like art and stuff from the different places she would travel?
And I could see the difference between, like, you know, this state in Africa or, you know, Russia and
that's
things.
Awesome.
And I was intrigued by that.
Did you start to travel at an early age as well? Like,
Not really.
Okay. How did the travel like come about? Like, you was just like, as you got older, interested in more cultures? Is that how that happened?
Yeah, I just know when I was a little kid, I would turn the TV on the Spanish channel. I didn't understand it, but for me, it was intriguing to hear another language.
Yeah.
And so, and then when I was 15 years old, I was required to take a foreign language in high school.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I'll just take Spanish because that was available, and I fell in love with it the second I walked into that classroom.
And then tell me about this couple that you met. Was that also during your time during high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my first job. I was waiting tables at a barbecue restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Barbecue. I was expecting you to say like Mexican restaurant or something. No.
And so, and by then I had basics in school, you know, and so I was able to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And back and forth. And so every Sunday I spent time with them, like washing clothes and stuff. We'd go to the laundromat and have 4 or 5 hours to just sit there.
Really? You were probably teaching them English along the way, and they were teaching, I guess maybe not teaching you because you already had taken some classes, but you could practice your Spanish, right?
Yeah.
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 Very cool. After that, like, what did you do? Did you start to travel right off the bat, or like, what were your career goals after that, I guess?
I never felt like I fit in the system. I didn't know. Ever since I was a little girl, people would ask, like, what do you want to do when you graduate? I'm like, I've never lived in the world. I don't know.
It's so weird, right? Because you're supposed to like figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life at that age. Like, who's going to know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just always thought, I just wish I could get paid to learn languages and travel and document cultures.
Okay.
But there's not a degree for that.
Yeah. But you did go to the university and you did get a degree, right?
Several.
Okay. So tell me about that. What were some of the degrees that you picked up?
Yeah. Well, as far as the traveling stuff goes, my grandma wanted to take my brother and I on a trip for graduation.
Okay.
He was 1 year behind me.
Cool.
So we had to decide together where we wanted to go.
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere we wanted to go for a week.
That's amazing. I wish I could have got to do that at an early age. That's really cool.
Yeah. And so that's what my grandma, we decided. My brother was like, I want a beach.
Yeah.
I want a beach. I'm going to be able to look at women on the beach. You know,
course.
it's a 17-year-old boy,
guy, yeah.
17-year-old, you know, kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to speak Spanish and be around other cultures. So she was like, we're going to Cozumel, Mexico.
Okay.
So that's kind of what started it all for me. I went there.
Yeah.
And that was my first time to really be in an environment where, I mean, it was touristy, but the people that were working at the hotels and stuff. And so I made friends with a lady who was selling pottery at her hotel.
Okay.
And I stayed in touch with her whenever we left.
Cool.
And so I went back to the States, and I was paying my way through college, and I was like, this is so dumb. And I went through a heartbreak, and I was like, I'm out of UConn. I'm out of
just
this.
Everything.
And so I bought a one-way ticket to Cozumel.
Oh, so you've already done like the one-way ticket.
When I was 19.
We were talking off camera about the one-way ticket, and I was like, that's gutsy. And you're like, no big deal. You've already been doing that, right?
Yeah. And at that time, I had such a huge network of Mexican friends in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And most of them didn't have documents. I don't care.
Sure.
So I thought, well, it'll be the same when I get to Mexico, that I just can show up and find a job.
Yeah.
That's not how that actually works. I didn't know that, though.
So I guess we were talking also when we were emailing back and forth about how, are you happy with, what you do day to day? Does it make sense, right? Because you mentioned that you didn't feel like you fit into the system, right? And I feel like a lot of people are stuck that way, right? Like you have to do whatever it is that you're doing day to day to pay bills to survive, but that's probably not your passion. I think very few people are like lucky enough to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just that system. It was family system, political system.
Oh, everything
whiteness,
as a whole.
Just
Really?
everything. I was like, this
Okay.
is, why do we have to do,
Yeah.
like even school in general, like the degrees they offer, it's like they only offer, it's like, fit which box choose which box you want to fit in.
Right, right. And I think most people, they'll get a degree and they don't even end up doing what it is. Like they'll get a psychology degree and end up in IT, computers, or something random,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think one of the obstacles, I guess, that we should talk about, and I don't know how much you want to share, but walk us through like the obstacle that you had to face. I know you've mentioned several, kidnapping and lots of stuff. Tell me, like, how those experiences came about, I guess.
Okay. So whenever I was 19, I bought that one-way ticket to go to Mexico.
Okay.
That lasted a couple months when I figured out they weren't going to give me a job.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we've got savings. Let's backpack. Let's go have an adventure. So I did.
So you had like limited funds and you were stuck in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I just said, live it up, document as much as you can, have fun. I can say I experienced happiness, like in a way doing that I thought that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Somehow,
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to make money doing it, but I experienced that joy.
No fear though. You were like never like, what if I run out of money and I'm stuck in this country?
Yeah,
and
lots of fears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just kind of like, it's just another obstacle type thing or what?
Yeah, I guess. I was like a free spirit. I had
Yeah.
really long hair and I had it put in dreadlocks.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I had that. I was on the back of a motorcycle with my winds blowing in the braid,
Yeah.
like right along the ocean.
Okay.
And I was like, there's got to be a way to make money doing this.
So were you like in a hotel or?
No, the woman I stayed in touch with,
Oh, okay.
she had me in her house with her family.
Got it. Okay.
And they live like they're really poor family. And so we were like, I learned how to wash my clothes by hand.
Yeah.
And I thought, how do 7 people sleep in one room? It's one room.
Yeah.
And I learned like they would put out hammocks and they would have hammocks like all layered.
Okay.
And then like little kids would sleep in a hammock with an adult.
Yeah.
And then in the morning you get up and you put all the hammocks away.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Limited space, limited resources.
I would just sleep
right?
on the rooftop a lot. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was the weather okay or was it really hot?
It was hot.
Hot? I can imagine.
Yeah, but it's part of the experience. So anyway, so when I came back, I was crushed. I was like, God, there's nothing there for me. Like I went go to school and pay your way through, work a dumb job or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought I'll just do it. I'll try my best. So when I came back and I promised myself that I would work as hard as I could to make that possible, what I just came from. Work
Okay.
and save to invest in another country or to save to travel longer or something.
Yeah.
And it was when I had gotten back from that, that crazy ex-boyfriend kidnapped. I went through kidnapping and a rape when I was 20.
Wow. Okay. Like he just like broke into your place at nighttime or something, or like?
He followed me. I was at Walmart at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Yukon
Okay.
Walmart parking lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What happened after that? Like, was it like you were stuck in some place for weeks, months? Like, what happened after that?
Well, I fell apart. Like
Yeah.
I just like I didn't really have a strong relationship with my family, so I was pretty much went through it all by myself.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to adulthood.
Yeah, that's crazy. What did you do to escape that? I guess like, did you know where you were at? Like, what happened? Were you like abused? Like, how did he like force you into this situation?
He grabbed me. He was really strong. I left the house in flip flops that day, and for a long time I was mad at my. I mean, I thought that had I not left in flip flops, I could have always been an athlete. Like I could have kicked him, I could have ran, I could have fought back.
Sure.
It was my fault somehow.
Yeah.
It's typical victim game or guilt and shame.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think it takes a lot of guts to talk about that. So I definitely want to commend you for telling that story, right? Because even when we were texting back and forth and you were telling me, like, I felt bad. Like, I was like, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And you're like, oh, I understand, but, no worries or whatever. But I guess most people haven't had to go through that experience, right? So what would you say if you tell your story or if someone's going through that? Like, how can people sort of help or make them feel at ease, right? Like, you want to let them know that you care, right? But would you rather them like just kind of avoid the talk altogether, or do you want to have those talks? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest gift that you can give someone, it's like when I was going through that stuff, I didn't need anyone to come save me.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to fix it. All I needed was just a sacred space for someone to give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like just a sacred space. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to know what to say. Just silence. Just offering a sacred space in silence.
Okay. That makes sense.
And validating someone's pain.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to just don't fix it. Just recognize it.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's very powerful.
How are you coping with that?
Did you have a problem sort of like announcing that or like telling people that happened? Or at the time, what did you do to overcome that?
Yeah, I didn't talk to anybody.
Okay.
I was already in the process of getting ready to move to an apartment in Edmonds where I was going to be close to the university. I moved in. I went there. I didn't have any contact with my mother at the time.
Yeah.
A separate trauma that had happened 6 days before the kidnapping and the rape that I talk about in the book.
Okay.
I had no contact with her. Hardly ever spoke to my dad, but he was the one I called.
I see.
Whenever, yeah.
Yeah. No police report or anything?
There was a police report. Yeah, I called the cops, and I did testify against him.
Okay.
It was terrifying.
You have to like go through it almost, right? Because they're questioning about everything that happened, right?
Well, here's the deal. Another rape that had happened that I had never spoken of was when I was 19 years old. It was a pastor and a youth pastor at a church that I was going to, and I had never spoken of it. During our relationship, my rapist, one of them. So I had told him when we were drinking wine, I had told him, and I would never mention it again. So when we're in trial, and it's terrifying enough to have to relive that trauma, facing my rapist, who's sitting there in his orange jumpsuit with a shit-eating grin on his face. He said I would never have the courage to tell anybody. Well, no one would ever believe me.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're about to find out. And I'm shaking like a leaf. My dad and my other youth pastor were there, and a whole bunch of strangers. I never knew who they even were or why they were there. Is it true that you were also raped when you were 19 years old by a youth pastor? And I was like, that was a curveball I did not see coming. Oh, but you didn't report it. But why do you report this one?
Yeah. So how did you overcome that? Like, what happened after that? Like, what happened?
Oh, it was all said and done. Go home.
Yeah.
And
okay.
So I went back to my apartment, and I was sleeping on a mattress in the floor. I moved in that apartment with nothing. But other tenants that were moving out, they would leave behind stuff. Okay. So I would kind of put together my apartment, like dish towels, coffee cups, mattress, blanket, pillow, stuff like that.
Where were you working at the time? Were you still working at a restaurant, or what were you doing at the time?
No, I had I was a full-time job at a clinic, a bilingual receptionist.
Oh, okay.
I was that. I had to, and that's one thing I started coping, as I didn't have, I didn't know where to go for resources or how to talk to anyone. So I didn't. And so I was work therapy. I worked 2 full-time jobs.
Oh, man.
And then I was doing cleaning and painting for the apartment complex as well. As long as I stayed busy, I didn't have to look inside, hear, feel. Yeah. But it definitely had its consequences because I was cutting and drinking alcohol and taking pills. And
I see. So you think you use just staying busy and working all the time as a coping mechanism to just kind of like not think about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at one point, did you deal with that? Did you like go to counseling or anything, or
not till later?
Not till later.
I got strung out on drugs at that point in my life.
Oh man,
I lost everything, and I took my best friend at the time. Her parents were dead because of alcohol and drugs. Yeah. So it took her sitting down on my bed one day and saying, like, every day you become more like my mother. Yeah. And I can't watch another person in my life die. So she was like, you either seek help. I'm going to call your mom. You haven't talked to her in over a year. Either you're going to talk to your mom, or I'm out. Yeah. And so
that worked?
She called my mom, and I was so mad at the time.
Oh, she did call her.
You hypocrite. I was so mad.
You're like, you're supposed to be my friend.
Yeah. But then, I went to rehab. I went to Valley Hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did that work? Like
I got clean.
The first visit? Yeah.
I got clean. It wasn't, but my path of healing, like my light bulb moment, actually, because not too long I got out of rehab, and I never looked back as far as the ecstasy and stuff like that. Yeah. I never thought alcohol was a problem. That was never the problem.
Yeah, it's always like,
not until I was 34,
drinks,
and I was like, that was always the gateway of all the other problems.
Yeah.
And I finally got sober almost 3 years ago, but it was when I got back. So I was able to keep a job, and again, when I got out of rehab, I had nowhere else to go but go stay with my mom, which was it was also very traumatic for me for other reasons. Yeah. And got a job at OnQ, and then I really quickly got promoted to be a manager, and then I was like, fuck, I'm gonna buy a house. Okay. I was like, for me, it was power. Like, look at where I was a few months ago, but like, power because of the powerlessness that happens when you're assaulted.
Yeah, I bet.
But I had never done the internal work. Okay. So after that, 4 years, I started a lawn business.
Really?
So I was like doing lawns. I had a whole rig, 60 customers.
Man, you're like hustling all over the place. Yeah. I'm seeing a connection here.
Yeah, I was doing all that, but then I went through when I went through my bankruptcy in 2013, I lost everything. I lost my house, everything in it. I lost my business.
How did that come about? Like, what happened to get you?
That homeowner's insurance, I didn't do research. I wasn't ready to have a house. Okay. I mean, my ownership and my responsibility of things. I wasn't ready financially to have a home. Okay. But my mortgage payment kept going up. Like when I bought my house, it was $600, and then the insurance kept going up in the area because it was a horrible neighborhood, which I did not do research on before I bought my house. Yeah. So my payment went from $600 to $1,000 and just kept going up. And I was like, I'm working 7 days a week. Like, what am I doing? And of course, I just kept getting further away from where I was at 19 with that dream and that trip and what I wanted to do. And then I tried to rent my house out thinking I was in a relationship. And so she was like, just move in with me and rent your house out.
Yeah.
The guy that I rented my house out to ruined it. He hoarded cats in there.
Oh no.
So it was condemned.
Wow.
Like it was, I couldn't, I just had to, I mean, everything in it, I rented it furnished.
Just when you thought you had some stability,
Right.
you were like going good, and then like you're like, you know, sort of like going down, right? Because I imagine late fees, you miss a payment or whatever,
Yeah.
like it almost becomes a slippery slope too, right? Like how do I get out of there, right? Like if your payments keep increasing, I'm sure your salary's not increasing, right? So what did you do to get out of that situation?
File for bankruptcy.
And you're just like, I'm done.
I had to walk away from I mean, to even get my house, like to get it remodeled to be livable again. Because I mean, I'm literally when I say the carpet, all the ventilation systems were full of cat pee.
I see.
The carpet, I rented it out furnished, you know, the closet. I mean, in the closets, like the clothes and years of university, the books and blankets and
it was
everything I
just a
had,
mess.
everything was ruined. It was ruined. Everything.
So was this like a one-way ticket moment where you're like, I'm out, or no?
I wanted it to
Yeah.
be, but I wasn't in the mental state because, like I said, I had never dealt with the stuff that was inside.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean,
Okay.
because when you go through something like that, you go to the Yukon Walmart. You go to Walmart, like that's a normal everyday thing.
I've heard stories where people post like, hey, you know, this suspicious thing happened to me. Like I noticed a person was following me or stuff like that, right? It's scary, you know, and I don't know, like, what do you do to prevent that, right? Like you just
You
like
can't.
become more aware. I don't know what to
The
do. honestly.
hypervigilance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hypervigilance. Like
Yeah.
I've spent years of, I was just telling him like last night, like the years I've spent feeling hunted at all times.
Yeah.
Hypervigilance.
Yeah. Do you still feel that at
Sometimes.
moments? Okay.
Sometimes.
And I guess when you travel, do you travel alone now or? you
Mostly,
do?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That to me, that takes a lot of guts too, right? Especially if you're going to a place where you don't know anybody, no support system, different language, and you're like, sure, no big deal. Check. Yeah.
Well, I speak Spanish.
Yeah. Where else have you traveled besides Mexico? Like, tell me some of the places you've traveled.
Well, so what had happened when I filed for bankruptcy, like I graduated, throughout this whole time I'd stayed in school somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Even on pills and alcohol, just heavy drinking for 15 years and all this stuff. My light bulb moment for me was, I'm going to answer that question, but I want to fill this
You're
gap
good.
in.
Yeah, definitely fill me in because I'm trying to like connect the pieces, but you know better than I do, right?
Yeah. It was, I was drinking whiskey on my friend Brittany's porch on the balcony. We were watching a storm come in and she was like, bro, we're 28 and we're about to be 30. In 2 years, we're going to be 30.
Yeah.
That shit's crazy. What do you think our 30s are going to be like? And that really made me look inside and look ahead in my life. And I was able to realize, like, I just started crying and I said, I don't want to be alive at 30. I can't imagine
really?
being alive at 30. I had so much pain and anguish inside of me and I was drinking so much.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that was in there.
Wow. That's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was at that point that I had the courage to, and I knew, and I had been in and out of abusive relationships for years, heavy drinking for years. You know, everything was great until opiates would start and then it would crumble and I would get rid of the pills and never the alcohol.
Oh man.
Right. And so that I was able to see like, you know, this trauma happened years ago,
Yeah.
but the abuse has continued because it's self-imposed. And the common denominator of all those situations is me.
Okay.
And so, you know, I realized I had been slowly killing myself. And so I had to make a decision. Well, we can either continue we're living miserably. Okay. Let's be real. It's miserable to live like this.
Yeah.
So we can either choose to just end our life quickly or we can choose to do something different. Both paths are going to hurt, but you already know what this path and this pain feels like.
Yeah.
So it's time to do something different.
Both are super difficult, right? Like you're going to have challenges either way, but luckily you chose a different path, right? Like,
Yeah.
did you like have support from your friends or anybody else to like guide you through that path, or what happened?
The person I was in the relationship with at the time, Sherry, who I was living with, was a huge support system.
Okay.
Even she offered to pay for my therapy. Like she's like, I've always seen who you are, and like if I'm willing to foot the bill for that.
Yeah.
For you to find help because you deserve that life on the other side of that pain that you carry. And so it was just starting to go to therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you definitely recommend that to people?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I feel like especially in the Hispanic community, there's a stigma with like going to counseling and stuff, right? Like if they hear about you going to counseling, they're like, está loco, algo tiene, right?
Yeah.
But it's like counseling is a good thing. It's a positive thing. You need to
Yes.
have an outlet, right?
Yeah.
So
And you're investing in your own self.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people that may be hesitant to go? Is it scary? Like, do you remember your first session?
I was
Like,
terrified.
Were you like super honest, or were you still kind of holding back with the therapist?
I had never talked to anyone about the rape and the kidnapping.
No, not even during counseling.
Oh, I mean, prior to that point.
Oh, prior. Okay.
Like I hadn't ever really walked through it. Like only when I
Yeah.
get blackout drunk, I would start to replay
I see.
stuff. And yeah, I had never really opened up about it. So it was terrifying for sure.
You were there with the therapist, but then at that point you were super honest with everything you were facing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know how to say it. You don't even have to know how to talk about stuff. Just be willing to.
Yeah. Okay.
Be willing to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I hope that stigma sort of like goes away with younger generations, and as we learn more about, you know, mental health and like, you know, just trying to be better to yourself, right? Like we're always worried in the Hispanic community about doing things for other. It's always about family and friends and like traditions, right? But it's never like spoken about like taking care of yourself or even doing the thing you love, right? Like we were talking about how people are miserable doing their day to day. Maybe they don't follow the passions because they're worried about what people might think or disappointing their parents. There's a lot of pressure in that. You know? What did you do to follow your passion? Because I think just like hearing your story, it's travel. It's like culture. It's like meeting new people, new experiences. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from you, is like that's what you're passionate about.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was going through therapy, and she introduced me, like I said before, I hadn't really ever talked to anyone. I always felt like I was a fish out of water. Like I don't know how to relate to these people that haven't gone through it, but God forbid I'm not going to talk about my stuff.
Yeah.
God, what if they haven't been through it? And then I'm the only one, so I'm not going to be the first one to talk about that personal stuff. And it's embarrassing, the shame that you carry.
Yeah.
The shame and feeling like it was my fault, or people just say, oh, ya pasó, or like it's in the past, like let it go and move on. Like there's no validation.
It's not that easy.
It's not.
Right?
It's such a complex thing. And so the therapist, she introduced me to a women's trauma group where it was like a group session where I was able to work with other women in a group counseling session. And they were also there because they had been survivors of similar traumas.
I see.
Their own story, their own way. It may have been escaping an abusive marriage or a date rape or something like that. But we'd all been survivors of sexual trauma. And so to hear her talk about openly, she's being vulnerable. She's here because life has become miserable and uncomfortable, and she's seeking a way through her own power to improve. Maybe I can learn from her, and maybe on my journey, once I apply myself and I'm healing, I can also give what I'm learning to her, and it forms solidarity.
Yeah.
And in one of our last sessions, our therapist gifted us all a framed quote that said, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear."
Oh.
And so I hung that up in my room, and that really challenged me to change my mindset. And change is change, even if it's just one tiny thing. I mean, a ship in the ocean, you just change it one fraction of a degree and you have an entirely different destination.
Right.
And so that really challenged me to do that. And so I was able to work through my fears little by little. I mean, I was scared to death to leave my room, even try new things in Oklahoma City, meet new people because of my anxiety, because of what I went through at 20.
Right. It's hard to trust people again, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that I finally had the courage I would pursue my master's, which was a big deal, to have the courage.
Master's in what?
Human relations.
Okay.
Master's of Human Relations. And,
Cool.
and a year and a half into my degree, I was like, why can't I finish this degree abroad? Like, why can't I do this? And I was just like, my professor, then when I was doing research for OU at the time, and he's like, what would make you what's the happiest you've ever been in your life?
Yeah. Could he tell that you were unhappy at the time?
He was like the first father figure really in my life. He was an amazing man, Dr. Davidson. He's part of my dedication. Yeah, and I knew his wife was a part of their family, and he mentored me and taught me about active listening and empathy and things like that. And I told him, I was like, I'm quitting this degree and I'm going to go drive a garbage. I'm just over the system.
You just wanted to do something different at the time? Or
well,
what?
originally I was going to do Masters of Psychology.
Okay.
He's like, you've got to get into a PhD. And all my professors were like, we will write you letters of recommendation. You've got to work on your PhD. You can build. And I wanted to go in psychology because of how much I'd worked through at that point. I really felt like I had a lot to offer other people and I could help them.
Yeah, especially if you've been through a lot of those experiences and obstacles. I mean, most therapists probably haven't gone through that.
Right.
Like they can't really put themselves in that person's shoes because they haven't lived through that.
Right. Exactly. But I knew just being a part of the system, I'm like, they're like, you know how much you can make doing that? And I'm like, but I just want to just chase a paycheck.
Yeah, it's not about the money.
And it's about the system. I mean, people who have $200 or $300 an hour to pay for a service don't need as much help. Like, they have access to other resources.
That's very true.
And that's not fair. I'm not going to be a part of perpetuating the system and the cycles of that. It's not fair.
Yeah.
I feel like I can help people on a much greater level money can come from who knows, infinite ways if I just share my story and kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's the happiest you've ever been in your life? He's like, for God's sakes, do not drop out of this program. He's like, don't throw it away. Don't drop out of the semester. Don't quit. He was like, where have you been the happiest?
Like a specific moment of where you can remember where you're the happiest.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted to know.
And I had to dig so far back. It had been so long.
Yeah.
Boom. I said when I was 19 years old and I bought that one-way ticket to Cozumel, Mexico. And
That was it, huh?
yeah, and he was like really thoughtful. He's like, take this week off. Take it off. Don't worry about your research hours. Don't worry about your assignments. Take this week off.
But don't go to Cozumel.
He's like, don't leave. Don't quit. Just take
Yeah.
a few days, rest, relax, go walk in the park, do what you do.
Yeah.
Well, a couple nights later, he called and left me a voicemail. I could tell he'd been drinking scotch or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, Dr. Williams and I, we were drinking bourbon tonight and smoking cigars, and we were talking about you. And he said, we have affiliation. We have a contact in Colombia.
Really?
And he said, how would you feel about finishing this degree remote?
Wow.
Because you can do your research abroad. I know
Yeah.
that you're good for it. You're a hell of a researcher. You can do video chats.
Stars aligned. Yeah.
And so that was the idea. And then I just got my wheels turning. And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like I remember where I started with my therapy and stuff. I couldn't imagine like if there's monsters around every corner and around down
Yeah.
every street.
Yeah.
What would life feel like abroad? And then I was able to see, but look where you started and look how you conquered fears little by little along the way. Time to spread your wings and fly. And then
Yeah.
I realized at the time the bankruptcy felt like the worst thing I could have ever gone through, but really it was the greatest gift.
Because it was like a reset.
I didn't have shit.
Yeah. Okay.
I already have everything that I own could go in a suitcase.
Yeah.
I don't have
So
leases
you're like,
or
I'm
debts.
ready to go wherever in the world, right?
I was like,
Yeah.
wow. And so they were like, they wanted to organize it through the university so I could be protected under the umbrella of the system.
Sure.
And I was like, no, that's boring.
Okay.
I want to do my own thing. Well, it's not safe. I've already lived through the worst things. I mean, kidnappings
Yeah.
happened in Yukon, Oklahoma.
Right.
So I'm going to do, and I don't want you to be able to dictate what I do and how I do it and who I do it with.
Okay.
So I just bought a one-way ticket.
There was going to be restrictions, I guess, of where you could stay, maybe, or stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, I'm too free-spirited.
Yeah.
So right before I left, I got that quote tatted on. I had packed my suitcase, and then I was looking at that quote that was hanging up, and I was like, wow. I mean, literally everything that I have. I mean, I literally am going to travel with one bag on my back.
That's like everything you have in a backpack.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, I'm so grateful for that bankruptcy.
Yeah.
The best thing that could have ever happened to me, just let go of all that stuff. And I was like, I wish I could take this framed quote with me, but my whole life is in a bag now.
Yeah. So you just like,
And I was
I'm
like,
gonna
go get a tattoo.
Wow.
It was the day before I left. I went to 23rd Street.
Yeah.
And I
that's
got that
amazing.
tatted.
So walk me through what was on the other side of fear. Like what happened after you like got over that? What started to happen?
Well, I don't really, it took a long time to get over it.
Yeah.
And that it helped me see too how much trauma had just reigned over my life, like my control issues, my solitude, sharing my space, and things like that.
Sure.
I had never been to a hostel. Someone had recommended, go to a hostel, so it's $8 a night. And in my mind, I'm thinking, a hotel room for $8 a night?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
A hard ass bunk with a tiny little thin mattress.
Well, plus like being surrounded with so many strangers and
In a room with
stuff,
6
like,
women.
I mean, not trusting people, like it's tough.
Changing
you
in
know?
front of them.
Yeah.
Bathroom space.
Yeah, I can
Not-
see like that's not what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it was just radically out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. So what did you do? You got your backpack, and where did you go?
Well, I showed up in Medellin.
Okay.
And then the actual connection was for a little school in Hardin, Antioquia. So if you fly into Medellin, that's in the department of Antioquia.
Okay.
And that's where Pablo Escobar, during that political terror, like that's where like the capital of all that was.
Oh,
And then
okay.
it's called the Department of Antioquia, but Medellin is the capital of that department.
I see.
So you fly into Medellin and you get on a bus and go about 4 hours south through the mountains. I'm talking like through the mountains.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
What year are we talking about? Like when did this happen?
This was June 2017.
2017.
Yep.
What was the political state or like the country? Was it going through any like political shifts or anything at the time? Was it sort of considered dangerous to be there or not at all? Yeah.
Yeah.
What type of stuff was going on in the country? Do you remember?
Oh, I mean, it's just normal. I mean, military officers with AK-47s, and stuff like that. I mean, I can't ever say I saw guerrilla warfare. It was still going on though. There's still villages that are shut down that if you go in, you'll never get out.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I always hear about that. Like you can go, but you need to go, like know where to go.
There's
right?
se llaman zonas calientes, like
Yeah.
the hot zones.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And how was the school? What was the experience like there?
That was also a train wreck.
Really?
Yeah, because I was going to be teaching English as like to get my volunteer hours and then documenting my experience and stuff like that. And I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never been taught how to work with kids. I didn't know how to teach English.
So you were supposed to be teaching young kids? Like what age are we talking about?
Yeah, well, I thought I was going to be high school students, but they would put me, and also like the teachers were really jealous of me. Like they thought that I was there to take their jobs. And I'm like, no, believe me, you can have it. I don't want your job. I really don't want your job.
They didn't understand that you were there as a student?
It wouldn't matter. They were jealous that I was American. They were jealous that I was getting my master's degree. I mean, all the privilege.
Sure.
But, you know,
they don't know your story.
They didn't know anything about me, and I hated my guts.
Yeah.
So they would get all the kids in one room, like all their classes, and they would bail. And I'm stuck here, and I'm like, what? And these kids would just go out and blow out like little wispies off a dandelion everywhere. No. And I'm like,
how many kids are we talking about?
Like 30 at least.
Yeah.
Yelling, screaming on top of chairs. I'm like, I don't, and then I'm supposed to teach them another language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened? Did you have success? Did you sort of
that was a train wreck.
You never found your groove?
No.
Okay.
But I did discover if you just start speaking in English, no matter what you're saying, that's a new noise to them. So they'll stop. It doesn't matter what they're doing. They will freeze and they'll just watch because they're enamored by like the phonetics, the sounds.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Did they sort of like respect you at that time then? If you spoke English, they're like, okay, we better calm down. We better listen now. She mean business or what?
Yeah. Well, then I let them climb all over me like a jungle gym too.
Okay.
And then they wanted to draw on me. I'm like, I don't care. If we will stop screaming in my face, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we found out that wasn't your jam. So you were like, what's next?
Oh, and then I got into coke. I fell back in.
While at Colombia?
I almost lost everything. I almost lost everything.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things I was like, oh, I've changed since back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, and coke down there is $3 a gram.
Yeah.
You know, I've got $6,000 of student loan money in the bank. That makes you wealthy there.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want to do for a long time.
Just because you started hanging out with the wrong crew or what?
No. I was like, I want to try. I'm in Colombia.
But it's a slippery slope, right? Like if you you don't know, right? Like,
I was like, you have a history of addiction. And I was still drinking really heavily and I was there all alone. You know, and people there just, I mean, they see you're white. So they're like, oh, walking ATM.
Yeah.
Oh, tell her drugs. Oh, she's doing coke. Oh, okay.
Did it end up pretty bad?
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost overdosed a few times.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Then you didn't have any friends there?
Not really.
Yeah.
No, Sebas.
Okay.
Sebas, I call him my gay husband.
Okay.
And he told me, he's like, don't fuck with, he's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do or not.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. Been down that road, made it out alive. I was like, oh, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't fine.
Well, you've had already gone through those experiences. You already had some history there, but
Not with coke ever.
well, yeah. But I guess like, was it just like you're like, oh, I can do it, no big deal? Like you felt confident at the time, or how do you think you kind of slipped back into that?
Well, I think it's typical addict mentality.
Okay.
It'll be different this time.
Yeah.
I'm invincible. I won't have them in. Well, even if I do get too far in, it's just going to teach me and it'll make me a bigger person and I'll still come out alive. I've always made it out alive. I'm a survivor.
Yeah, man. I could see that. How did you get out of there? What did you do after that?
Well, my visa was about to be up. You know, I'd already at this point blown off assignments. I was getting to the point where it was now a secret life because I couldn't keep it hidden anymore. So I was avoiding phone calls, avoiding Dr. Davidson's calls, emails, not responding, things like that. Further and further behind on my assignments. I knew I was in too far deep.
Running out of money, probably.
And it was a big mess. And I knew, so my visa was about to be up. They gave you 6 months per year. Mm-hmm. And I had to make a decision. To think about going back to the U.S., it was the same feeling I had at 19 when I knew I had to go back to the U.S. I was like, oh, no.
You're like, I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do it. I just don't. I mean, my rapist was out of prison at this point.
Oh, really?
I didn't want to go back there. I didn't want an affiliation with my family. Like, what is there? Another degree? Another job that I don't give a shit about? Mm-hmm. Like, I'd found my bliss. I mean, apart from the bullshit that I got into.
Sure.
I was like, this is amazing. This village, I had traveled around a little bit.
What did you enjoy the most? Was it like learning about the culture, the food? Like, what did you enjoy about that place that you were at?
For me, it was in the magic of the mountains.
Okay.
It was the mountains. It was the coffee farms and the banana farms. And
it was like all scenic, like beautiful.
Oh, it was like the most beautiful thing I have ever seen.
That's awesome.
I mean, the first time I ever saw those mountains, I was like, I'm never going back.
Yeah. Are you a big like a climber? Do you like to go on hikes and stuff like that?
I do like to hike. I've never done like extreme rock climbing or anything, but I'm athletic. I like to do hiking and stuff.
I bet you did some of that, right? You did some hiking while you were there.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. So when I was looking at a map and I was like, hey, look, like your visa's about to close. Mm-hmm. We have choices. And you're not that 19-year-old girl anymore that didn't have the mentality of I can teach English for this or do this. I mean, you literally, like, you left. You have everything you own in a suitcase. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go back for anything. Yeah. I just got a map and I was like, wait, facts. We know we need to leave Colombia. Well, the northern coast is a 17-hour bus ride. You can take a speedboat from there to go to Panama.
Okay.
Go backpacking up through there. Well, there's a lot of Colombia to get to know. You got to leave. Or we can just get on a bus and go south. And there's a border of Ecuador. And you can just keep. And I was like, I just want to keep getting on buses and keep going south, crossing borders until either buses run out or borders run out.
Yeah.
Or I run out.
What was the plan about the money, though? That would have been like on my list of me, like, okay, figure out how to pay for and how to get food and like how to survive, basically. What was your strategy there? I mean, I guess I'm not as good as a backpack traveler as you are. So walk me through that.
And actually, it was being in that situation of not having a plan.
Yeah.
This is what has taught me as well, is like you don't have to have a plan. Most times, even if you make a plan, nothing's going to go as you plan anyway.
That's true.
And that's just for your own security. And to be that far out of my comfort zone and say, what can I do? Well, being in South America and being a native English speaker, it's like being in a desert and having a glass of water.
Okay.
Everybody wants it.
Yeah.
And so someone said, why don't you teach English online? I said, I've never heard of such a thing in my life.
Were you like tech savvy or computer savvy at all?
Yeah,
or?
tech savvy and computer savvy, but I had
Okay.
no idea like what companies offer or what that looked like or anything like that. And so that's how, and they're like, yeah, get a TEFL certificate. It was like $50 online. So I got that. And that's how I started figuring out all that stuff.
Oh, cool. And then that would allow you to teach from anywhere and keep traveling?
All you need is your laptop.
Yeah.
Laptop and Wi-Fi. Doesn't matter where your students are.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. And you enjoyed that better, I guess, than having people
Changed my
jumping all
whole
over.
Changed my whole game.
So that kind of became your jam. That's kind of like what you did.
And the thing was too, I had to be honest with Dr. Davidson. I had to own up to that because I was about to finish my semester.
I forgot about him.
And I had to be honest with that.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a lady affiliate at OU that was affiliated with like the director of that country at that school and stuff like that. And I thought that the lady that I told the truth to first, I learned lots of really hard lessons.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that she would just be like, oh God, okay, I'm not happy about these mistakes, but she went to everyone and told my business.
Oh, really?
The director of the school, then the whole village knew. Like, and the faculty, and Dr. Davidson called me immediately and was like, Dr. Long is the head of our department, and he wants to kick you out of our program for you to not finish your master's.
Oh, wow.
He's like, luckily I've been his right hand for a few years, and we are like, we're in cahoots professionally.
How far out were you from like completing? Were you like super close
I had
to
one more
completing?
semester after that.
Oh, geez.
And he's like, I'm going to do everything within my power to not allow this to happen, but you have got to get your shit straight. I am not going to put my neck on the line to have you.
Yeah.
Because if you do it again, the bridge is burned.
He was aware of the drug situation.
I was honest.
And everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was honest.
Man, that's tough.
And he worked it out to where he's like, I could finish everything. I had to do a massive research project, like a thesis, like research project and stuff. And I did that. And I left. And I got situated in Quito, Ecuador, across the border and stuff. And I found a little room to rent. And that was my focus.
Were you able to do your classes online, or you just had to? Okay.
They were all research classes anyway.
Okay.
So it was just all me doing research, writing.
Cool.
I kept my nose clean, literally.
Yeah,
Didn't put alcohol, God forbid, but
yeah. What did you like in Ecuador versus Colombia? Like, what was your favorite? Like, if you had to compare both of those.
I didn't really care for Ecuador too much.
No?
It wasn't my thing.
Okay.
I mean, I would go back to explore more, but I couldn't really, I had to be really super careful with my money. I had one more semester, like half of a student loan. I had to live wisely.
Yeah.
And, and at that point I didn't figure out teaching online yet. It was towards the end of that semester that, it's why didn't teach English online?
Yeah.
And that's where I figured that out.
I see. How does it work with, like, I guess, getting paid and your banks and everything? Was all that based out of the U.S. still for you, or did you have, like, a Colombia bank that you sort of held on to, or how did you work that out?
I've never had a Colombian bank account.
No?
Never.
So how did you work your finances? I'm still trying to figure out the finances. I'm like, how do you survive going, place to place with just a backpack?
Well, you have like a debit card. They have ATMs.
Yeah. But like, where's your bank, your physical bank? Like,
it's here in Oklahoma City.
Okay. So it's still based in the U.S. And then you just kind of use it abroad. Okay. Got it. That was the piece that I was missing. It's like, how are you getting paid? How are you getting your money? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So what was next after that? You did Ecuador, and then what happened?
So I was staying at a hostel. I was renting a room by myself, but there were like tons of Venezuelan refugees there, like mostly. Like there were no other foreigners. And so I got to spend a lot of time with them.
Okay.
And so I was just in my room by myself studying a lot and getting ready because I knew I was going to graduate at the end of that semester, and so I was super focused. Well, one of them came to me in it was like, I want to say it was like halfway through April. I only had like a couple weeks left, or like a week left to actually finish all my stuff and submit it. And they said, do you want to go to Santiago, Chile? And I'm like, well, I'm eventually going to make it there, but we're like in Quito and Santiago is down here.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we're leaving in 3 days and we're going to travel as a group.
And these were just people you've met along the way, or they're part of the education that you were?
Oh, no, they were just at the hostel.
Okay. Just random people.
They were refugees.
Yeah. And you're like, sure, why not?
I'm like, I'd been drinking coffee and hanging out with them and making arepas with them and eating, and you know, like on my free time, I'd go walk around the town square, and they're married couples and stuff, like families. And they're like, well, we're leaving in 3 to 4 days. And I was like, well, I met a Venezuelan guy. He was a gay guy in Medellin who was homeless. He was couching. He was an engineer in Venezuela.
Really?
But like, same sad story for many refugees is like when they flee the country, like their degree's not valid in other countries.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so he was like doing like nanny work and housework, keeping work in exchange for a sofa and stuff like that to not be homeless.
Okay.
And so I said, you know what? Fuck it. I said, okay,
Man.
we'll figure it out. And so then I was thinking, what am I going to do about money? I mean, all these bus tickets, because we were looking at, and that's a long way. That's like, it was 5,000 miles.
Oh, wow.
5,000 miles.
Like, how many days are we talking about traveling?
At the end of it, we ended up going, and it was 5 days.
Jeez.
And bus hopping. So anyway, I launched a GoFundMe, and I had built a huge following at this point, and people following my social media, pictures of Colombia.
How did you do that? You just started
Posting.
sharing like your trip experiences
Posting
and
pictures and documenting everything. And a lot of these people
Okay.
had known where I had come from years ago as well.
I see.
So they've seen this whole process with me.
Yeah.
And so it was like my story just kind of spread, and they're like, look what this girl's doing. And no one knew, like it wasn't declared about why I was doing it. I didn't publicly post about overcoming trauma and stuff like that. I was just on this rogue.
Were you like blogging too at the time, or was
I always
it just...
wanted to, but I didn't know how to set that up.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was just doing personal writings and just Facebook posts.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
food and stuff. And so I launched a GoFundMe, and I was like, I need to raise money. I was going to raise money for, and I asked Orlando and Medellin, I was like, do you want to go to Santiago, Chile? Because I found out that was like the Mecca. Because that's like Chile is like the United States of South America.
I see.
Because the currency is so strong.
Yeah,
And
I can
that's
see
where
that.
people, I mean, even from Peru and Colombia, they all flee and go there to look for better jobs, opportunity to work. And it's more expensive, the cost of living and stuff, but you get paid more.
Okay.
And stuff's more organized and more safe and things like that.
Yeah. And the GoFundMe worked or what?
I asked Orlando, and he was still in Medellin. I was in Quito. We all wanted to go 5,000 miles south. And I said, hey, you want to go to Santiago? And he's like, I don't have money for bread.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to launch a GoFundMe, and I'm going to raise money for you. And there was a kid working at the hostel where I was at too that had been thrown out in the street. And he was like, how am I going to get to Santiago? I can't even buy bread. I can't even send money to Venezuela for my mom's medicine.
Man.
And I was like, I'm going to raise money. And so I started posting. I was like, here's this guy's story. Here's this guy's story. And we all want to go with this other couple we met. We're raising $1,500 for tickets, food, and stuff like that. And I raised it.
Wow. So not only are you having to figure out your situation, but you're helping people along the way.
Yeah. Always. Always.
That's incredible.
That was like an angel, like for them to have that opportunity. It was like a miracle that fell from the sky.
Yeah, right? Like it's just like happenstance that you guys met and you like, worked it out, and you're like, okay, I'll take this risk with you. You kind of put yourself in their situation when perhaps you didn't have to.
I guess. Right? I don't know. It was just something that just, why not?
Yeah. What happened? What happened when
we
moved?
raised it? We left we left. It was we left at night to take the night bus. It was 10 hours to the border of Quito, and then we had to get across the border of Peru.
Okay.
And then Peru is a very long country.
Yeah.
Our first bus was 24 hours just to get to Lima.
Yeah.
From the northern coast of Peru all the way to Lima was 24 hours.
Wow.
And then we got to get off there and like go get a meal, man.
Yeah.
And we're still tight on funds. I mean, that was just still a tight budget. So it wasn't like, oh, steakhouses and luxuries.
Right.
It
I was
was-
going to ask you about that. As far as like food is concerned, are you like always like, sure, I'll try anything once type thing? Or
No.
No? Are you a pretty picky eater then? Or
I'm not
what?
necessarily a picky eater, but like meat kind of grosses me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, that's like pretty big in like Chile and everything, right? With their dishes, I'd imagine.
Argentina and Chile,
right?
Colombia.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they have street carts where they have like intestines diced up, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm good.
So what did you do? Just like a bunch of rice or what happened?
Well, they have stuff like stuffed potatoes.
Okay.
They're like papas rellenas.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, or salchipapas, stuff like that.
Okay. When did the writing? So we haven't even dove into like your books and everything. So when did that come about? When did you decide, okay, I imagine you were like, I have all these stories. I need to share this with the world. Is that what happened, or how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we made it to Santiago, Chile, and that's when I found and this whole time, like by then, like I was like, by the time I get to Santiago, Chile, I'm going to have 5 days left to finish my project that I've been working 4 months on and submit it for my master's degree.
Wow. It's
so
coming down to the wire.
Coming down to the wire, coming off a bus for 5 days. exhausted, hungry, running out of funds, thinking I got to look for work, but I don't have time. I'm going to finish my master's project and get it submitted, and then I can think about that.
Yeah.
Well, I found my first job teaching online. It was through a company called English First.
Okay.
And they had like a studio like this with lots of computers with headphones. And I would just go to work every day and put my headphones on. I got paid $8 an hour.
Okay.
And then they would just issue a check every 2 weeks.
And you were like instructing like from that location to people on their computers throughout the world?
Yeah, they would log in. And all I could do, I couldn't see their pictures or videos. It was just,
Okay.
I could see I had 5 students in my classroom. I could talk to them individually. They could their mic and introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Where they're from.
Okay.
I could see if they were level 1, level 2, stuff like that. Okay.
Cool.
English class with Jenni. Today's topic is
still kids, or are we talking adults?
Hell no.
You're like, I'm done with the kids.
No kids. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all adults. It was and I just was like, and I was really good at it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And so I did that until I got bored, and I was like, okay, I'm back on the hamster wheel.
Okay.
It was great. I was there for 3 months, and then I went back to Peru, and I was there for 5 months. And then from there, I went back to Santiago for a little while, and then I went to Argentina. I was in Argentina for 6 months.
Okay. I bet Argentina is cool too. I've always wanted to go to Argentina, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. Tell me a little bit about Argentina.
Yeah, it was a whole different thing because actually I was in Pucón, Chile, which is even further south than Santiago, 8 hours south of Santiago, when I was like, I didn't know that it was, this is me being ignorant, but with geography, but I didn't think about the fact that they were approaching winter, and I kept going further south, and South Pole was right here.
Yeah.
I only had one cotton hoodie.
Oh man.
And my roommate, she was like, well, you do understand that you're getting closer to the South Pole, and it is winter. And I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go.
We're still only doing the one backpack thing?
Yeah, one backpack, one pair of shoes, one same pair
man.
of tennis shoes this whole time, this little cotton polo or cotton hoodie someone had gifted me.
Yeah.
So I was free. It was cold and miserable. And that's when I was like, it's time to go to Argentina. And so I went to the nearest little kiosk, and I was like, you sell tickets to Argentina? Yep. We goes to, I don't remember the name of that little village, but it was the coolest because I'd only seen the mountains in Colombia.
Oh, okay.
So to go cross a border and have to cross over the Andes Mountains on a bus in the winter, it was a winter wonderland. Right? Oh my God. Yeah. It was like, God, his wonders never run out. It's so beautiful. And then we stopped at a little wood cabin had a little fireplace, and that was the immigration passport.
Oh, okay.
So we walked through there and showed our passports. I got my first Argentina stamp.
That's awesome.
And it was snowing, huge snowflakes.
Yeah. That's like one of the images that probably gets stuck and ingrained in your mind forever, right? Like that memory, right?
Then I get to this little village. I went on foot looking for a place to stay. I was just like, hostel, and they kept telling me where to go. And finally found a lady who rented out beds. And when I got there, and I hadn't because the village I was in Chile before I left, it was a bad snowstorm, so there was no place. I was like, I'm not showering. I am not taking my clothes off. I am freezing. So I was like, fuck it, I had so many layers on, no one could smell me anyway. So I get to this hostel thing. I just want to get to shower, bathe, and change my clothes. It was after she took my money and I got my clothes in my bunk. She's like, by the way, we don't have any running water.
Oh no.
I'm like, fuck, okay, another greasy braid, change my underwear. Oh man.
Did you have just 2 pairs, 2 sets of clothes where you have to wash one while you're wearing the other? Or how much were you fitting into that backpack?
Oh, I had 3 or 4 changes of clothes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
still though, that's still pretty limited.
Pretty limited.
Yeah.
And so from there, I was like, well, in order to sleep, I know I'm going to need a drink. And so I went off on foot, and it was just snowing, and I was wondering, so freaking cold. I found this little spot. I was on first chance to eat Argentinian food.
Okay.
So I went and I got this big bottle of Argentinian Malbec wine, and I just tried 4 different things off the menu.
And I bet Argentina is even more so on the meat side, right? Probably huge on meat, I think, in Argentina, right?
I was like, I'm in Argentina.
Yeah.
Right now, this tiny little village, Junín de los Andes.
Okay.
That was what the little village was named.
Cool.
Population 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Tiny little place.
And at the time, probably no GPS, no cell phone. You were just kind of just.
Yeah, because I didn't have a tarjeta SIM. I didn't have a SIM card.
Okay.
Yeah, it's every time I would cross the border, I would just pop a new SIM card in there and pagar that and pay data.
So when you were walking around and navigating through the villages, you were just doing it on a whim? Mm-hmm. Okay, no big deal.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it was.
Yeah. Did you get lost along the way too? Or
sometimes.
No?
That was also a part. I learned to not be scared of getting lost. Sometimes I wasn't lost at all. I was being led to something that I was supposed to find.
Yeah. Or do you have a good sense of direction? Do you remember kind of the way to go back?
No.
Or? No? You're not giving me warm fuzzies here as far as you traveling everywhere. No?
No.
Okay. So what happened? You would get lost and you were just wander around until you figured it out, or what?
Well, I speak Spanish.
Well, yeah, but don't you want to go back where you were, or no?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, what do you need to get back? I'm like, do you need to get back because you really need to get back or because you're scared that you don't know where you are?
Yeah.
I'm scared because I'm, okay.
Yeah.
Let yourself feel the fear. Release it. Maybe you're supposed to get to know these streets.
True.
You're still
Okay.
have the scenery around you to look at. So
Yeah. So you kind of took every experience of like, it was a meant to happen type thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I
quit.
like that.
I learned how to not resist things.
Yeah. Okay. Is that kind of like the way you travel still to this day where
Yeah.
like, it's just like, we'll figure it out.
Not only
along the
travel,
way?
not only travel, but just to apply that to all areas of my life now.
Okay.
That's what traveling taught me. I'm a tourist everywhere, and life's a magic carpet ride. So just enjoy the
Yeah.
scenery. It's all working out. It's all flowing. You're on a river. It's always going to go this way.
True.
It's all working out for you. It's all lining in your favor.
Yeah.
So just enjoy the scenery and stop worrying about shit.
Yeah. Are you a firm believer that the people that you meet in your life are meant to be in your life and, you know, you meet them for a reason type thing?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'd imagine, especially you mentioning, you know, you helped these people travel and you figured out the GoFundMe and everything like that. It almost seems like it was meant to happen. Right.
Yeah.
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 Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell me about the writing. We started talking
Yeah.
about the writing.
I'm
How
getting
did the
there.
writing happen?
So I was in Argentina 6 months, and I had to ask myself, the last place I was at, I was doing a volunteership at this little village. I don't remember, Pellegrini something, but it was up by a swamp. It was the first time I'd ever seen like a swamp.
In Argentina?
And it was an swamp environment, and it was in Argentina.
Okay.
And it was freaking hot. And I was supposed to, I had done this again, teaching kids. I don't know why I do this to myself. I thought, well, I could
Yeah.
live somewhere for 2 or 3 weeks and get to know their area. And they were going to provide, I was going to have my own little live-in quarters and stuff. And I thought, I'll just do it and see, maybe I'll like it. I'm going to keep giving it a chance. No, it was terrible.
In person
In
kids?
person
Oh, no.
teaching. There's only 6 kids. How bad could it be?
Yeah.
Don't ever ask that question. How bad could it be? No, but anyway.
So I have discovered one thing you're afraid of is that teaching kids.
'Cause I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah.
So, it turned out to not be anything like what they advertised, but they provided tourism for the opportunity.
Okay.
And so, like, I got to go with, like, they had this really nice hotel, but people would pay a lot of money for weekend trips.
Cool.
Because they would come see alligators. So they had, like, an alligator would jump in the pool they had there. People were like, come out here, look at it. So we'd go out to the swimming pool and alligators just hanging out in the pool. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm living this. I even went out, they were going to go kayaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, kayaking
In the swamp? Oh, no.
Well, if they're going to do it, then I'm going to do it.
Of course.
They haven't done what I've done. So
Yeah.
I can't let them do something and be scared of it.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
Yeah.
So I did that. And I remember my feet dangling off and we're watching alligators bathing in the sun with their mouths open, like from here to the coast.
And you had your feet in the water?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I did that. And then I had to answer your question, I was to the point where my heart, I was just like, I really feel like I've had a wonderful time in Argentina and there's a lot left to see.
Yeah.
And I was either going to go to Brazil next,
Okay.
but something in me, it wasn't the fireworks at that point. And I was like, listen to that. You know, if it's not like this, yay, something new, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
What's up with that? And my heart was saying, I want to go back to Colombia. And I was like, okay. So I got a ticket and went back to Colombia. And I was living there teaching English and doing my thing when the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, I was in Bogota and the whole world caught on fire and I was stuck in martial law lockdown there for a few months. And that's when I was like, well, I've had this crazy rogue adventure for a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
And I can't do that now. So it's time to go on that rogue adventure on the inside of me and tell people why I decided to travel and what led me here and tell the raw version of my story.
Wow, that's incredible. What was the situation like during the pandemic there in Colombia? Did they have the necessary resources to deal with that? Or
No.
okay.
That shit was nuts.
Well, walk me through that. Like, what were people doing? Were everybody like panicking, or what was happening?
Yeah, I was panicking. You'll get a very, very real descriptive, the first 3 chapters of my book.
Okay.
Is that kind of where that starts, what
Okay.
that was like. Being in a place called Villa de Leyva. That's where I was originally when the pandemic hit, not being able to find a place to stay because they were like, oh, they thought that foreigners brought the disease to Colombia.
Yeah, I could see that. So they thought that you were there as a travel.
Like, oh, you just showed up here and you're bringing
Yeah.
COVID to like,
Oh,
we're like the
geez.
Black Plague.
Yeah.
And so it was impossible to find a place to stay. Anyone who would give you food, services,
Yeah.
and everyone, it was the xenophobia.
Wow.
People, spitting at you, menacing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to sit next to you, touch you. They were terrified of you.
Yeah. Like, how many books do you
No,
have?
just one for now.
Oh,
But
just
it's the first
one.
book of a series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So tell me about the book. Tell me about the title.
The title,
Yeah.
well, I was trying to figure out, I didn't even name it until I finished writing it.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
People are like, can you give me advice about how to write a book? And I'm like, I didn't follow any advice. I
Yeah.
try to watch YouTube videos about writing memoirs and stuff. And
Yeah.
And I even met with a book coach, and I was like, it didn't resonate with me. I just wanted to do my own thing, and I did. I would just write about sincerely what I felt inspired to write about, trusting the process. And then before I knew it, I would write it until something said, no, that's finished. Leave it. Put it to the side.
What was your process? Was it writing it in an actual physical notebook, or were you typing it out on a laptop, or what were you doing?
Well, before when the pandemic was starting to hit, I would sit in like, this was like in January. I was still in Medellin at this time before I was like, I'm going to go on this road 2 or 3 week. And they were saying, don't travel. The pandemic's coming, the COVID.
Yeah.
But it was all still in China. So I was like, it's not coming here. It's a conspiracy. Don't watch TV, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, I wouldn't leave if I was renting a room in Medellin with a retired couple. And they're like, don't do it. And I'm like, and I would sit out at little coffee shops and people watch for hours. And I started writing.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So
wrote the
just
rape
like-
chapter first, and then what happened after, and I just went.
Physical pages, you were just writing.
I just went.
Okay.
I ate donuts and I went. They had these donuts that were like covered in sugar and they had caramel in them.
Oh man, that
I would
sounds
just
amazing.
eat donuts and drink that coffee that was harvested there in the mountains.
I bet that's amazing.
Yeah.
That Colombian coffee, strong too. I bet though, right? Yeah, cool. So
Yeah.
tell me about the book. So where can people find it? What's the title? Tell us where to find it.
Yeah, the title is The Other Side of Fear, a
Okay.
backpacker's memoir.
Okay.
Yeah, and in Spanish, Al Otro Lado del Miedo, Memorias de una Mochilera.
You were telling me it's available in 6
It's available in 6 languages: English, German, French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Is that like just working through the company you decided to do that? Or
I self-published, and I went to Colombia I launched it in Colombia, actually. I was really scared about launching it because I told the truth about my rapist who's out and he's alive and well. I don't know if he's well, but in Blanchard, Oklahoma. I also reveal, the truth about abuse in my childhood from my father, who's also very much alive in Yukon.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's one thing to tell your story, that's courageous, but it's another thing to come back to the place where it all happened, where those abusers are still alive.
Sure.
And come back and say, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So I was in Colombia when all that happened, but I came back the end of August.
Okay.
The pandemic changed the opportunity for online teaching. So before I was like, oh, I've got a master's, I'm bilingual, and I'm a native speaker of English. I could pick and choose what job I wanted to do. And that changed because I've been working from home and people needing to find work at home. So that
It got saturated?
it got saturated.
Oh, okay.
So it was really hard for me to find income, and I was
Yeah.
hungry all the time, and I was trying to hustle, and I was just like, guys, and Sherry, my ex and still my best friend, she said, just come back here. Everyone is hiring. Come back here, work.
Okay.
And so I came, and the first place that called me back was Walmart, the Belle Isle Walmart.
Really?
And I didn't
Okay.
have a vehicle. I'm a backpacker.
Yeah.
And I'm used to being in places where they have developed public transport way better than here.
Yeah, you're not going to find that
Third
here.
world countries.
Yeah.
There's a lot better quality of living in many ways. And so I was walking back and forth to Walmart, and that kept me like thinking, I had gotten bids on translating it, and that's why I was like, that's my why.
Cool.
It's other women and people, the 20-year-old version of me that did not know how to carry on
Yeah.
and do all of that. Like those women need this, and men.
I see. So you would recommend that to somebody that's gone through that?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's cool. So you kind of did it in mind with like helping others.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So they can find that on Amazon?
On Amazon. You can actually, you
Okay.
can just type in my author name on Amazon.
Okay.
Jenni Reavis, JenniReavis, and
Okay.
all 6 book covers will just come up.
Awesome. Cool. So we are getting the signal here that we hit our mark.
Oh, okay.
And it feels like we still have a ton to talk about, but I guess we'll wrap it up. I always ask my guests to tell me something about themselves that most people don't know about them. So I'm going to put you on the spot here to share something that most people don't know about you.
Kind of a new thing that came up when I had given my manuscript to my editor after pouring my heart and my soul into it for so many months.
Yeah.
I discovered the world of e-commerce. I'd always been obsessed with leggings.
Okay.
I used to be a lot bigger. I've lost like 80 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So I could never find leggings that like were wild, crazy, colorful designs
Yeah.
for bigger women.
Okay.
And so I learned how to make all over print patterns, and then I learned how to like just the whole print on demand concept. And I set up an e-commerce store where I
Very
sell,
cool.
and this is an example of that.
Oh, that's yours?
It's one of my designs.
Oh, cool.
So now
and
I
I
sell,
see the travel like theme on it.
I
That's
sell
very
travel
cool.
designs.
Yeah.
And then now I have over 100 wild, crazy legging designs.
Cool.
And they're available for all the way up to 6X.
Where can people find that?
And actually, I named my store after my book series, so I cannot talk about one without talking about the other.
Cool. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, you see what I'm doing there. Yeah, and it's Unhidden Heroines.
Okay.
Unhidden Heroines
Very
is the name
cool.
of my store. It's on Etsy.
Awesome. Super cool. Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story and your obstacles and everything you've gone through. I mean, super courageous to even talk about it, right? So thank you for that. And I definitely recommend people to check out your book see what you're up to. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Very cool. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the super talented Jenni Reavis. Keep grinding, because in the dream we trust.